All right, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the September 23rd, 2013 school board meeting minutes.
So moved.
By Dan, do I have a second? By Retta. Do we have any changes, omissions, additions? Anything? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
7 were unanimous. Thank you. We have a correspondence folder that I will pass around. In it, we do have the substitute reports, as is customary. We also have a letter addressed to Dr. Charles Littlefield from Brian, thanking him for taking the time to meet with him regarding the possibility of having some Hooksett students come to Goffstown. I'll pass that around. Commendations and good news. Jenna's going first?
Sure.
All right.
Our kneecap testing starts tomorrow until Thursday. The kids actually, out of all the years, the 8th graders seem somewhat pumped about it, so I'm kind of excited to see what happens there. There was less grumbling about testing for so long. We have some upcoming events. The Firefighter Challenge for the 8th graders is October 24th, so they're starting to gear up for that with their colors and kind of start the process. We have our whole school field trip on November 13th, so they just got their packets to the Monarchs game, and I was told that there's a lot of good things coming this year. We've kind of tweaked the packet a little bit and done a little bit more focusing on the educational side of it this year to like change things around a little bit for the kids since they've already been there last year. And this Friday we're going to have student government elections, and then hopefully we'll have a small group to help with the Pumper and Regatta.
Excellent. Can you tell us more about the Fireman's Challenge? What is that?
Yeah. The 8th graders come together, and then we pick a few boys and a few girls on each 8th grade team, and they get to run and like kind of act like firefighters. So they go through the challenge of like lifting a ladder, carrying a hose, just kind of hitting like a mallet down, and it's pretty strenuous, and it's kind of what the firefighters go through, and that gets a few of the kids involved, and the other kids that aren't involved in that, they're cheering. They make a banner, they have a cheer, they have a color. We decorate our doors with our theme. So like one year we were pink, and we were kind of doing the breast care awareness / firefighters, so we decorate our door with little ribbon that we're putting out the fire. So they kind of all get involved, and they all have like a little piece to it. So
Fun.
they can.
Thank you. Yeah.
If I could maybe just add to Firefighter Challenge, it is a remarkable exhibition of school spirit. The kids do a remarkable job. It's well run. Jen Gillis has been running this for many years. She does a terrific job in collaboration with the fire department. It's a really nice event. I would encourage board members to come if you were available when it happens. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's usually in the afternoon. So this time it's October 24th if the weather holds out. We've had it in the spring in the past because we've had to like push dates, and they actually, you can tell like the kids come together in the fall, and now they're like this really close knit group of kids. It's like their own little family after doing that. So it's kind of nice to see how close they get over the activities.
That's fun. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other commendations or good news?
Speak to elementary.
Excellent.
First at Maple Avenue, we are also in the middle of kneecap testing. Fourth grade is finishing up this week, and third grade will be starting at the end of this week, and all kneecap testing should be done by October 17th. We recently had our student council elections, and the representatives have been elected, and our officers have been elected. I'd like to announce our president, which is Emma Yaris, our fourth grade vice president, which is Gavin Palmer, our third grade vice president, Anna Cataret, and our secretary, Mia Kittredge. So they're very excited about their roles, and the student council really has a lot of big plans for this year. They're very excited. At Glen Lake, there are a couple of events and initiatives that are being sponsored by the Glen Lake School Partnership, which is the parent group. They recently purchased some small headphones for the children to use when they're using the iPad carts so that they are not being interrupted by others, and they're not interrupting others when they're using the iPad parts. They also funded a visit by Michelle's Menagerie, where Michelle was able to bring some different animals. She brought a python, a hedgehog, a partridge, a tenrec, which I don't know what that is, a fennec fox, a dove, a mallard duck, and a tarantula. And the children were able to learn about their habits in the wild. And Glen Lake says thank you for the support of the parent group.
Terrific. Thank you.
At high school, we are also preparing for kneecap testing next week and PSAT testing. And then on this past Friday, we had a great event, a secondhand fashion show called Secondhand Chick, and it was they raised some food for the food pantry here in Goffstown, and it was organized by the public library and the community clothing center. And it went really well. The art club sold jewelry too, and food was served by the culinary club. And it's homecoming week this week, so she'll tell you a little bit about that.
All right, so the past week we had the open house, and student ambassadors did a pretty good job of helping parents navigate around the school as well as hand out schedules. Also, Be the Change Club had a canned food drive. It was a smaller scale than the one that we have in the winter, but different clubs participated and donated cans, and they got raffle tickets, and a few students won from that. And like Mr. Perrin said, it is homecoming week, so all throughout the week there's different dress-up days, and on Friday is the dance, and Saturday is the football game.
Excellent. Thank you.
With a big crazy assembly on Friday too, with lots of competitions and a pretty serious dance-off.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
That's great. Jenny?
I would just like to hats off to Sam. There was an article in the Goffstown News about the environmental project that you've been working on.
Yeah.
That was great news coverage.
Yeah.
And the program just sounded good. It sounds
It
like
did.
it's really a lot of, just like your secondhand fashion show, it seems like you get all of the clubs involved in your activities, which I think is really nice that we have clubs in all of those different areas that can feed off of each other and put something on that's just school. I think that's great. And there was also a very nice article about Goffstown's science scores from last year. So coming back to everybody, that was great.
Anything else? All right. Public comment? Do we have public comment tonight? Nothing. All right. So standing committee reports. Policy Review Committee. Hank, do we have anything?
Right there, 11:25, next meeting.
That's all we got? All right. So next meeting is November 25th, 6 o'clock at the SAU. Is this going to, oh, that's a different meeting. Okay. Planning and Communications.
Our committee met this evening, and we talked about some of the good press that we have gotten the last few weeks, and reviewed the plan for the upcoming months, and really making sure some of the good stuff is getting out there from our board. We also talked a little bit about how can we share this. Things are in the press, but after the press is gone, there's no archive or record of some of the good things that are happening. So we're going to revisit this next time, looking at a place for possibly on the website where we can share these articles and information that really give a glimpse at what's happening in the schools.
Excellent. Thanks, Retta. CNE.
We have not met since our last meeting, and our next meeting is November 25th at 7 at the SAU, and that is our yearly meeting where we go through all of the principals come and give a talk about what's going on in their schools and where they've been and where they're going, what they've accomplished in the past year. So that's always a wonderful meeting to be at. I will invite New Boston and Brevard to be there also, but if anybody really learning a lot about what goes on, a lot of really cool things that go on in the schools.
Super. All right, so that's November 25th at 7 at the SAU. Thanks, Ginny. Budget Committee report. Budget Committee has its next meeting on October 17th, so we haven't met since our last meeting. One thing I realized after last meeting is when I gave my report, I defaulted to the past habit, which was Tuesdays and Thursdays when they met during budget season. It's different. It's Wednesdays and Thursdays. So I did just want to take a moment to correct that. Everything else is the same. It's just rather than doing the town on Tuesdays as I reported, it's Wednesdays. So I wanted to make that correction. Otherwise, we're good. We'll be meeting in 2 weeks. A week. A&F.
The administration and finance met this evening. We met at, we officially convened at 6:15. We did an all invoice review. What that entails is looking at all the invoices that back up the manifest that I'll be bringing forward in a moment. We had a few questions. Ray took down notes. He'll get back to us. We will meet again in 2 weeks at either 6:30 or 6:45. Look at the notice, so if you want to come, the public is invited. This is an open meeting. In that, I have a manifest of $1,913,308.47 I would like to recommend motion to, however we do it.
You're making the motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second by Ben?
In that manifest, if I may, we have payroll taxes and benefits of $1,524,022.14, which now is the bulk of the $1.9 million. We have some general expenses, Goffstown Truck Center for regular ed transportation, $99,500. We've got Manchester School of Technology transportation, $5,000. The laying, door, and hardware, we spent about $9,700 for Maple Ave exterior doors and Goffstown High School vision kits. What the vision kits are, when you have a solid door, you need to cut it open and put some tempered glass in there so that we can see through, so that they're not solid doors. I believe much of that, if not all of it, we approved as safety measures and encumbrances from the prior budget. Public service, we made payments of $13,128. School specialty company, why we buy a lot of the classroom supplies at the beginning of the year, $11,700. And we pay the SAU, our October assessment is $107,500. The rest of it were smaller invoices for under $5,000 apiece.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Any further discussion? All right. All in favor of approving the manifest as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
7. We're unanimous. Thank you. Elementary facilities.
I have made contact with last year's chairman of the committee, and together we're going to be working to try to find an evening that'll be convenient to all of the past members to get our postmortem started and to develop the skeleton, at least for a public education committee or public education process for the upcoming year.
Okay.
Hopefully have more to report at our next meeting.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. Goffstown, New Boston, tuition. Do we have anything there? You guys, I know there's been a meeting. Goffstown Dunbarton Tuition Committee. We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow, 7 o'clock at the SAU, with the intent to agree upon an MOU for any Dunbarton students who wish to continue coming to Goffstown after the area agreement dissolves on July 1st, 2014. SAU Executive Officer Superintendent Search Committee report. They have not met. There's nothing to report. We have an SAU board meeting coming up on October 16th at 7 o'clock that will be held at Dunbarton Elementary School, which leaves us with the superintendent report.
Just a few things to share with the board this evening. Last week I had the opportunity to have Senator Lou D'Alessandro came and toured all the Goffstown schools. We were fortunate that all the building principals were able to take the senator around and talk about a series of significant educational issues. There are changes being made to the administrative rules, so-called ED 306, which are the minimum standards, and there are some impacts around high school programs, as well as a movement towards competency requirements for elementary and middle schools. We're watching the changes to the minimum standards very closely. Legislative update, bills have been filed. LSR numbers will be issued next, and we'll begin looking at proposed bills that are going to be making their way through the legislative process that pertain to schools and to education. We have an agenda item this evening, so we can maybe go through that quickly, but you've been asked by the New Hampshire School Boards Association for a call for resolutions, so that's something that we'll address a little later. I wanted to give the board an update on the Dunbarton parent choice inquiry, the data we've been collecting. We sent out 97 letters to current 9th, 10th, and 11th grade Dunbarton students, and as of 4:30 this afternoon, we've received 47 responses of the 97, and all 47 of them have indicated their preference to remain at Goffstown High School. Several of them inquired if their younger siblings would be able to attend, and several also indicated that there's a potential issue because Dunbarton has indicated they may not be able to provide transportation to Goffstown High School, and that might be a barrier for some families to remain in Goffstown. But I will continue to keep the board apprised. Our deadline was today, so tomorrow we will have calls made to all the 50 families that haven't responded yet, or the 50 individuals, and we'll keep the board updated when we receive more information regarding that. We have a field trip going for Mountain View, going to the Boston Symphony Orchestra for rehearsal. This is another item that's a little later on because we need the board's permission on that. The board, I presented to the board a while back paint selection changes at Mountain View. And I had another request. There's a teacher at Bartlett who would like to paint a tree on a wall of a classroom and use it as part of lesson plans. Again, the past practice being to seek permission for painting projects from the board. I would recommend this. The teacher had a well thought out explanation of how it was going to be used from a curriculum perspective, and she intends to include this in her lessons.
Do you need a motion?
I would like a motion if the board would be comfortable with that.
Janice making a motion.
I presume it's a motion to approve. I will second that.
Seconded by Dan. Any further discussion?
Yeah, what kind of tree?
Will it be a giving tree?
I'm not entirely sure what some kind of
With a big
deciduous
top
tree.
or something?
Yeah, it's what she's going to do is she's going to paint the trunk of the tree and the branches, and then they're going to make leaves, and the leaves are going to change colors. And
Oh, okay.
Fair enough. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Hank, I didn't see
Yeah.
your, yes, okay. We are
Denise
unanimous.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I wanted to give the board an update on the play structure at Mountain View Middle School. As you will recall, we had a very old, unsafe play structure that the board approved dismantling it this past summer, which we have done. And Wendy Hastings, our new principal at Mountain View, who is doing a fantastic job, has met with a couple of companies that do play structures to just start to get a sense of what's available. And she's going to reach out to kids, and she's going to give the students a voice in what they might like to see on their playground. Would they like to see a play structure? Would they like to see more tetherball? Would they like to see more hot top? What would the kids like to see? And so she's going to work through and show them a couple of pictures of what a play structure might look like. She's also reached out to MVP, looking at some potential fundraising opportunities and some other ways that we might be able to raise some money if, in fact, we move forward with a new play structure project. But I know that was something that the board was interested in, and Wendy is progressing forward in that capacity. We had an issue with our heating and ventilation system here at the high school. Specifically, we had 2 expansion tanks that failed, and while we were doing all the work through the Honeywell 2 project, converting the boilers to dual fuel, both oil and propane, this was a major setback for us, to the tune of about $12,000 to replace the tanks. Ray could probably share more information than I had. They are better units than the ones we had, which were up in the ceiling and very difficult to work on. They were hard to get to, and these new units work with all the other equipment that we have done and the improvements that we've made. But it was, again, another example of emergency expenditures that without making those changes, we would have had no heat in this building. I think the board is aware we did have a break-in at Maple Ave School. We are working with the police department. It is an ongoing investigation, so there's much that I can't share. But at this point, we feel secure in some improvements that have been made to make sure that the facility is safe. I will share we do have cameras at Maple, but they are older cameras. They're not as clear and aren't as helpful as some of the newer cameras that we've purchased either here at the high school or at Mountain View. Something that I would recommend is that we consider improving our camera presence at Maple Ave between the spray painting damage and now the break-ins. I think the investment we have in our buildings and the contents of our buildings are significant, and I would recommend that either this year perhaps with money that may be available or through the budget process, this is something that we talk more about. Happy to answer any questions about that.
Jim? We replaced the doors at Maple Ave. They're not the old doors.
We put a new set of locking doors in the entranceway so that folks can't get into the school. Yes, it's a more secure entrance area.
And the doors that we had talked about previously that weren't functioning, that were rusting and stuff, they've been replaced, haven't they?
A number of them have. Exterior doors are very costly, and we have, for example, Jerry Agate and I and Ray have actually met and gone through and looked at every door here at the high school. We're looking at all the doors at Mountain View next week. Some of the doors are old and are rusted, and we would be well served to have newer, more secure doors, but right now they are functioning the way they should.
In light of having a break-in, would it be reasonable to call replacing some of the doors at Maple Avenue that could use to be replaced with our 2.5% money?
Perhaps, if that was the direction the board wanted to investigate. Specific safety improvements I would recommend at Maple would be more cameras, and would be looking at a security monitoring system at the facility. And I would echo the same for Bartlett. I think our ability to have cameras to protect our facilities at Bartlett are pretty inadequate. We have 4 cameras and only 3 of them work. So I think we would be well served to look at replacing some of those cameras. The ones at Bartlett also doesn't have, the high school in Maple have a hard drive that the cameras are hooked up to. So for example, the recent incidents at Maple Ave, we were able to pull it up on the hard drive and share evidence with the police and burn a CD. We don't have that kind of functionality with the system we have at both Glen Lake and at Bartlett. I would recommend upgrading and getting them all the cameras onto the same system. Again, safety is our #1 priority, and the more we can do to help secure the envelope of the building, from my perspective, is reassuring to parents, it's reassuring to staff, and it's a way of protecting kids and protecting our schools. Brief update on Hooksett. As you saw in the correspondence folder, I had the opportunity to meet with Dr. Littlefield in Hooksett. We had a good conversation.
And I've left the door open that if the Hooksett School Board has an interest in further discussions with the Goffstown Board or initial conversations with the Goffstown Board, that we would welcome that as a possibility. And lastly, I have an update on a grant opportunity available that Chief Sullivan received through a FEMA grant, and I've been able to get a little more information about that and just wanted to give the board a brief update. This is actually a letter of intent for a hazard mitigation grant program through FEMA. And I'll just read just a little bit to give the board some information. The purpose of this form is to establish your community organizational interest in the hazard mitigation grant program to identify projects that are a priority for you and reduce future emergency disaster costs. So we feel strongly, and it's probably timely, that we've got a significant rain event happening here, looking at the water drainage issues we have here at the high school. Just before the meeting, I went outside, and sure enough, the area that is problematic is filling up with water. We just put a few more sandbags in front of a couple of the doors before the meeting started, but it would be a way of correcting some of those issues. It is a cost-matching grant, so FEMA puts up 50%, the town would put up 50%, or the school system would put up 50%. And at this point, what Chief Sullivan shared is we had to get information in, and then the folks who review this through FEMA will notify us if there are grant possibilities available. So it's almost like a pre-submission, and then if and when grant money becomes available, we're notified. I would like to thank the town that helped us pull together some initial costing structures. Specifically, Megan and Carl did a nice job helping out Mr. Agate in working on that proposal. So we'll keep you posted. Again, we don't know if there will or will not be money available, but certainly this drainage issue at the high school is a pattern now, it's not going away, and the more significant rain events we get, the more likely we'll have another water intrusion.
I'm sorry, did you say what the time frame might be on hearing from that?
He did not have a sense of what the time frame was, and I'm not familiar. I've never done a FEMA grant, so I don't know what their timing is.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. If it's all right with the board, I'd like to move Mr. Ferrier with the Yale World Congress up before old business.
Sure.
In a good place? All right.
Welcome, Mark.
Hello again. Is that fine? I'm here once again to have permission to bring students from Goffstown High School to Yale Morning Congress this year. It's the first weekend in December. What I've given you is a copy of the letter of the information that I sent home to parents. For the new members, Yale Model Congress is a large competition, about 25 high schools, mainly from the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, and us. And we've been going there now. Well, this is our 10th anniversary. This year is our 10th anniversary. We also go in the fall when we can to the University of Pennsylvania Morning Congress, which is a little bit larger and has schools from all across the country. And thus far, we have won 52 individual speaking awards at these competitions. And 4 group awards, including last year being named the best small delegation at the Yale Model Conference, part of the delegation. This year, I'm not sure of the numbers yet. There's a cost breakdown here, which is going to cost the students to go. I'm taking information from them now. I'm hoping we're going to have 16 to 18 students speaking right around the $500 range. Penn Model Congress this year is in March. I'm not sure off the top of my head the exact weekend. And there are a small number of students who said they really, really would like to go to Penn. If I can get your permission for that at the same time, I've told them that if there are just a few people, it's going to be more expensive for them. But I will go as a sole chaperone if there's only 3, 4, 5 people down there. And we'll get to Penn this year. It's mostly the seniors this year, the upperclassmen really want to go to Penn and compete in the big league, which really is what Penn is. I was hoping I'd have some students tonight, so it was a really short demonstration for you. But they're all working to pay for the trip. None of them get the night off. But it's, again, it's a program I'm really proud of. It's a program the entire school district is really proud of. Glad to answer them.
Are there any questions? No, this is, are you looking for motion?
No, this is, although it's out of state.
Yeah, my understanding is I have to get permission every year because it's an out-of-state trip.
And Pennsylvania.
And both of them are. Well, we're going to Yale. The first one, that's in Connecticut. We take the coach Goffstown. When we go to Philadelphia in March, we fly down. Very long bus ride. It's actually more
So
expensive.
Philip made a motion. Philip, what was your motion?
A motion to authorize Yale Congress to attend both the Yale and U-Penn events should they elect to attend both.
Second.
We have a second by Jenny. Do I have further discussion?
It's an excellent program. You do a wonderful job with it, so thank you.
And most of this, I believe, is funded by the students.
All funded by the
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with
I'll let you know how we did.
Absolutely. We want to hear it.
Thank you.
All right. I'll jump back up to old business. We have an update on Sergeant Camp, please. Thank you.
I'm sending around a packet of information that I thought the board might appreciate, and I have a couple extra if our teachers wanted copies. I have, or I can give them for the board members who aren't with us this evening. This gives you a little information about the Sergeant Center program, and since our last board meeting, I had the chance to meet with all the 6th grade teachers at Mountain View and gauge their level of interest in further exploring the Sergeant Camp experience. The teachers were incredibly supportive. I would like to thank them for taking the time to meet with me during their lunchtime and to thank them for their level of interest in this program. They were interested in the next steps. So, for example, a couple of the teachers would like to go and see the Sergeant Center program, to go see the facility, get a sense of what it offers educationally, and we'd like to reach out to parents and gauge their level of interest. Sergeant Camp offers, and I think it's the last page of the handout, they offer a couple of different programs, and actually if you look at the second to last page, that would be the cost of this. There's a 5-day program, you can do a 4-day program, a 3-day program, a 2-day program, or you can just go for 1 day. So at this point we're exploring, the teachers were interested in the idea of a 2-day with 1 overnight. I would like to commend the teachers. They were concerned about the impact on teaching and learning. They didn't want kids to miss what's happening in the classroom. We're mindful and concerned to make sure that because there's a cost associated with this, I personally feel badly if there are families that have to make a tough choice when it comes to being able to fund a program of this nature. But there is interest in general from the teachers in continuing to explore further. At the last Dunbarton School Board meeting, they officially decided that Dunbarton students would not be going to Sergeant Camp this year. We had already anticipated that. New Boston was not expecting them to be in attendance. And the New Boston 6th grade teachers are very excited about the possibility of some of our Goffstown kids being able to go with them. So I think this is a nice opportunity. And you've got some information there. There will be more to come, but we are continuing to investigate this as the board has requested, and I will keep you up to date.
I'm not screaming to connect two things here, but as we look through this, and as you look through this, I would call your attention to the article in the Goffstown News about kneecap scores, and less about the scores themselves than about what teachers said about engaging their students and the things that they felt were important in their schools and their curriculum. And many of those things had to do with the very kinds of things that a program like this delivers to students. So I'm not stretching too far to make the connection, but it's interesting to see what teachers say about students and what this program delivers.
I would agree.
Could I ask one question before? On the last 2 pages, what's the difference between those?
The difference in cost is based on the second to last page is a first-time cost. So essentially, the first time you go, you get a little bit of a break.
Okay,
and then
discounts.
after that, it ends up being more expensive the next subsequent year.
Okay.
So that's what that difference is. So in other words, it would be $345 for the week for the first time, and then after that, it gets more expensive.
Okay. Discount to get them in the door. Yeah, with one caveat. Are we still working towards having a lot of fundraisers where the kids will be funded, the parents actually funding the program?
We did, and in fact, I believe Mountain View was going to also reach out to MVP to see if they might have some fundraising opportunities. The teachers had a lot of great ideas of how fundraising had occurred in the past, and for example, Mrs. Grassett had talked about having a snack shack kind of scenario where kids could buy healthy snacks and it would help fund the trip, and so there were a lot of great ideas of how the cost might be offset for this program.
All right, updated budget schedule.
With each of your packets tonight, you should see an updated schedule. The schedule update is actually nothing more than adding the 4 meetings with the Budget Committee on November 14th, November 21st, and then again in December if required at December 5th and December 12th. These are Thursday evening meetings, Diane, so I'm not sure if the Wednesday change that you introduced earlier might come into play here or not.
It was
Okay.
my own mistake in reporting, like 2 weeks ago, I said she'd go on to a Tuesday, Thursday schedule.
Yeah.
It's just a Wednesday,
Okay.
Thursday schedule, and nothing else has changed. The determination was that the school budget would be addressed
On Thursday evenings,
So,
okay.
yeah, I was just trying to correct my default
Gotcha.
philosophy.
Okay.
All right, Ray, thank you. Okay, update on the Lions Club meeting.
Mr. Labor and I, along with Mr. Fountain, met with folks regarding the Lions Club field. We met with Jane Stekowitz, Hugh DeBrule, Rick Wilhelmy from the town, and Mike Briscoe from Tri-Town Soccer, and also Scott Gross on behalf of the Lions Club. I actually thought they were going to be here this evening. I do apologize. I thought the folks from Tri-Town and Mr. Gross were going to be able to be here tonight. Essentially, the Lions Club is interested in liquidating the property of Lions Field. They're concerned about their ongoing operational costs associated with the care and maintenance of the fields, the irrigation, the fertilization, the grass cutting, as well as the infrastructure, particularly in the baseball area of the structure itself, needing quite a bit of work. They are in the process of assessing the value of the property, and if the property was of significant value, the Lions Club is interested in selling the property and donating the proceeds to the new town athletic complex over by the transfer station. I think the board's probably aware of the vision of a new central location for multiple fields. Mr. Gross was very clear that the Lions Club are
mindful and do not want to leave athletics either for the school system or Tri-Town without fields. So they've tried to create kind of a short-term bridge program where they may give up direct oversight and maintenance of the facility and turn it over either to the school district or to the school district and Tri-Town together to pay more for the upkeep. We currently spend $5,000 a year for the use of those fields, and that's our only baseball field. We have quite a bit of usage on those fields. High school uses the fields for field hockey. Soccer uses the upper fields in the fall. In spring, varsity and JV baseball, as well as lacrosse. And Tri-Town runs soccer programs primarily at night from 5:30 until dark, and then on Saturdays. They also host AAU baseball and some other travel soccer tournaments. So there's quite a bit of use and need for us for those fields. What they're interested in is, depending on what the assessed value of the property is, they're interested in a couple of things. The first would be, and these are Mr. Gross's words, not mine, if the value comes in high, they're interested in the idea of selling the property and putting the money into the new complex. And the number that they're thinking is if the value was somewhere in the $500,000 to $600,000 range. They're thinking that if the value comes in between $400,000 and $600,000, that the club is interested in selling the property. If the value comes in lower, say in the $200,000 range, the Lions Club is interested in potentially either donating the property to the school and to Tri-Town, which we would be more than happy to oblige them, or it would be interested in some kind of a long-term lease arrangement that would be like a lease to buy, that we might enter into a 20-year agreement for $10,000 a year, and at the end of the 20 years, the property's owned by the school district with access to Tri-Town. I would like to commend the Lions Club. They're deeply committed to athletics in Goffstown and do not want to leave the school system or Tri-Town without the needed field space that they're currently using. So our next steps, we're waiting for them to determine what the assessed value, and then we're going to get back together to look at what the next steps are. But what we're interested in at this point is conducting an agreement with the Lions Club where we would take occupancy of the property, which if the school district is in charge of and maintaining the fields, then the town would mow, and the cost wouldn't be separate. Right now, they're paying almost $5,000 for mowing. That would be a significant savings. So we'd like to continue to work with the Lions Club, the rec department, and Tri-Town, and keep the board advised of where we'd like to go with this. But that's essentially the direction that was shared at the meeting. And so Steve Fountain was there to be able to advocate for what our needs are. And it was a very respectful meeting that I think all of our individual and collective needs for field space were heard.
I have a real problem with if they're selling it and donating the money to the town, because that's not school, and that's not going to help us at all. Those are going to be town fields and public fields, not Goffstown high school fields. So that's a real disconnect for us. I mean, I know it sounds very nice and it's a wonderful donation for the town, but
because in some ways, to the extent that the district is making a decision, some portion of that decision would already have been made for it. And again, it's not a thumbs up or thumbs down kind of thing. I think Ginny makes a good point. It's something to give some consideration to and to figure out how we best meet the needs of the student population who's taking advantage of those resources.
Because I'm speaking from history
Sure.
of town field usage, and
If I can, Diane, the spirit of the conversation that we had was, I think Rick from the rec department was fully under the impression that the Goffstown schools would be using and accessing those fields. So they talked about specifically if Lions Field was going to be sold, then the rec department and the town would prioritize building a baseball field first, so that our baseball team had a place to play. So your point is well taken, Ginny, and I'm happy to share that feedback with the Lions Club, but the sense that I got is that Goffstown schools would be accessing those fields and would have the ability, and they even talked about a bridge plan where they would, if we knew that Lions Field was going to be sold in 3 years, that they'd build a baseball field first so that our baseball team had a place to play. That's the conversation that they were talking about. They also indicated that they plan on starting the fields this winter. They're actually going to do the work in-house with DPW crew, working on the equipment and starting to get the first phases of some fields going. But I'm happy to share that input.
they're not going to be school fields, and I really think that instead of going in with town fields, I think we need to have a home fields thing. We really need to maybe get back on the charge of doing our stadium and getting our fields fixed instead of, because you never know what you're going to come onto with town fields. Little kids and big kids and all kinds of different things going on. I don't think that it's a terribly good idea.
Anybody else?
I can only say that I like to share.
I like to
Because
share
it's-
too, Dan, but historically,
Understand.
last time, the plan at first was worked out, but then as their programs got larger, then our use got less. And I know, sharing is wonderful, but over history of time, I've seen
Understand.
The first nice plan is not always the plan that ends up with.
Perhaps a very creative initial conversation in MOU, especially with the Lions Club, and a methodology of transfer may be effective for our use.
The mindfulness. Yeah, but sort of figure out how to balance that.
Yeah.
So
Just want to make a comment. Don't forget, the Lions Club money, they can give to anybody they want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'd just be thankful no matter what.
So depending upon what happens with the appraised value of the land, and Mr. Gross was going to take back the discussion to the Lions Club board and get some direction from his board, and then we were going to get back together. I guess I'm looking for the level of interest on behalf of the board to potentially enter into some kind of a lease agreement where we would hold the responsibility of the fields, which would then allow the town to mow for us for free. And so we'd save some money in grass cutting, and to have a partnership with Tri-Town, if that would be the direction that Ray and I would recommend if the board's comfortable with further exploration of that. And I think if we get a little further down the road on this, I think the interested party could come to a board meeting to talk further about this.
I would make that motion, but has anybody really checked with the selection to see if they would approve mowing and taking care of these fields for free? Is that
Rick had indicated that he seemed very comfortable saying that they would commit to the mowing of the fields. I can only share what he shared at the meeting.
And you know, I have to pipe in, it's not for free. The town would be paying for it.
Right.
But it may or may not be additional time. They may do this instead of that, but I would suspect there might be some time involved. Does the town use that field as well, right now?
The current
Lions
use,
Field?
The current use of that field is just for Tri-Town.
Okay, and they pay a significant amount, I can
They pay
see.
a significant amount. They pay in the neighborhood. They have a $2,000 fee that they pay.
Plus
and then they're currently paying about
fertilizing,
$5,000.
for fertilizing too,
So
yeah.
their cost right now exceeds the school district's.
Right.
So they're paying about $7,000,
Yeah.
and we're only paying $5,000.
Well, I would accept the town's offer to mow without hesitation. And I would suggest that, yeah, we continue to explore if that's how they need to do it.
Did they?
But I will say that is one thing that's hanging in my head. I remember not too many years ago, a discussion about, might have been at the budget committee level at the time, suggesting that the town charge the school for plowing their parking lots. So, as much as sometimes we have plans and you make an agreement and whatnot, over time, as people come and go and representation comes and goes, things change. So it's smart as we move forward and explore to be cognizant of the agreements that are made and their longevity.
Right. And if I may, when that was brought up at the Budget Committee, it was also shown that there's a lot of quid pro quo, and if we start to go to details, we're going to be in it, and it's going to cost double, because the town does stuff, the school does stuff, and it works both ways. I mean, how many times did they use the gym? Yeah, and it's a nice sharing, as long as we can.
Periodically, about every 4 or 5 years, it was
Yeah.
who's going to charge who? You charge me, and I'll charge you for something I'm giving you.
Right. The only win-win we almost had was, it's off topic a little bit, was for the officer, because being able to charge the school, we would then, part of the area agreement, able to charge the other towns and get a 30% rebate. So,
All right, Brian, so you will continue to
I will.
explore that?
I will. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Review of the deliberative session date. February 8th is our last possible day to meet. So I would recommend that we explore some dates. That would be February 1st. All right.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak more to that, Brian?
Yeah, we have a window of time. If you look at the budget calendar, we have essentially a week for holding the deliberative session. And I apologize, we hadn't picked up on this at the last meeting, but we really would recommend that the date be changed to February 1st, which would allow, if we had a significant snowstorm, it would allow us to reschedule and hold a make-up snow date. So that would be our recommendation, would be to change from the 8th to February 1st, 2014.
With the snow date of February 3rd.
it would be a Monday evening.
72
Has,
hours.
yeah, has the town come up with any ideas of what date they wanted to use?
Not that we've heard. No.
We get in there first. So that would work for me. I mean,
So I will entertain a motion to change the delivery session date from previously scheduled February 8th to February 1st.
so moved.
I have a motion by Dan, seconded by Philip. Do I have further discussion?
It's RSA 40:13. This is the earliest it can possibly be because it's between the first and second Saturdays of February after the last Monday in January.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We are unanimous, thank you. All right, here the town mayor's request. Denise, did you get something?
Okay. I don't think there was a motion about the fields, it was just continuing to progress.
Yes.
And
Yes,
Okay,
it
good.
was, yes,
Thank
we
you.
just came to consensus. I didn't hear a motion.
She-
Did I miss a motion?
I had heard that she said if she needed to make a motion. I didn't hear an actual motion being made.
I didn't hear a motion.
If there was, there wasn't a second, so.
Y'all said Denise? We did not need a motion. All right, Uncommon Mountaineers.
The Boston Symphony.
I don't have that on the agenda.
We had Boston Symphony trip I'd mentioned briefly under superintendent's reports. We would be looking for the board's approval because this is an out-of-state trip.
Repeat?
It is a repeat. It is a repeat.
Do I have a motion to approve by Hank?
Can
Do
you,
I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ben. But it's out of state. To approve the trip? The motion is to approve the trip to the Boston Symphony? Okay. Go
Do-
ahead, Dan.
do we have a 60-second synopsis of the educational complement for this trip?
This is a neat opportunity for Mrs. Orcott to take students, I believe it's specifically strings, and they're able to go watch a rehearsal of the Boston Symphony Orchestra.
Okay.
I think in the past, she has really nice connections, and I think there's been interaction with musicians and our students, and from what I've heard, it's a really remarkable trip and a wonderful chance for the kids to see an orchestra in Boston in that venue.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
The cost involved for the,
The cost, I think it was just minimal for the cost of the bus.
The bus, right.
Yeah, there,
I would presume this would be longer, so there'd be lunch as well, but the kids would,
10 chaperones, 100 students.
wow.
They get to watch professional musicians rehearse and allow some of them to experience some of the best musicians in the world. And there are actual, Mrs. Orcott provided the national standards that this references, specifically number 6, listening to many different types of music. And national standard number 7, evaluating music and performances. Just the cost of the bus is my understanding.
Honestly, too, we thought there's no money in the budget for field trips at this point. Most
Right.
field trips are almost completely
Funded by the-
those parties
Yep.
enjoying them.
And it's 100 kids, 10 chaperones,
2 buses.
2 buses. Symphony Hall.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Are unanimous? Thank you, and
Thank you.
the field trip. All right, now, Uncommon Mountaineers request, please.
The Mountaineers, which is a local school snowmobile club, and it's overseen by Daryl Raxick, is the trail administrator, has for a number of years requested the board's permission to access, my understanding is a back quadrant of the property here at Goffstown High School, which allows them access to a network of trails. They have a process that's a sign-off process that they use for landowners, and they have provided a copy of their
Insurance certificate?
Their carrier, and they're requesting a 1-year right-of-way permission from the board, as you have done in the past.
Non-exclusive?
No.
Non-exclusive?
Meaning if somebody else wanted a right-of-way to be able to go through, we could allow for that as well? Which means it's not an exclusive right-of-way to them. They're not the only ones. Right, so
They're
it's,
the only ones who have made this request.
right, which means if someone else made a request, we would have the right to also allow them.
They're not requesting exclusive rights.
Okay. I.e. the non-exclusive.
And they work on the trails.
Yeah, they do. Cross-country for us.
And they're asking for no fee associated with the access, which is what you've done in the past.
Right.
All right.
The lower left-hand corner?
Attesting to the liability coverage of the New Hampshire Heritage Trails and OHRB program, completed name insured, all landowners other than the state of New Hampshire who permit their land to be used for participation in the New Hampshire Heritage Trails and OHRB program and are recorded annually at the Bureau of Trails. It's a liability waiver. All landowners that they have this agreement with.
It's a blanket.
Oh,
It's a blanket.
That's a pretty big blanket.
$2 million policy.
Yeah.
They've listed us specifically as a certificate holder. Sorry, I think
Yes,
that's what you're
that's what I was looking for, the certificate holder.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, my apologies.
Because that's not, actually, that's not in the past what we asked for. I don't believe in the past that's necessarily what we got. We simply asked that we be named an additional insured on our policy. Because we don't have a contract agreement or permit, it can't be a blanket additional insured. It probably needs to be endorsed so that as an owner of premises.
I think that's what they've done here, Philip. My apologies if I didn't make this clear. They've identified us as a certificate holder.
If it's the lower left-hand box?
Yeah, it's the lower left-hand box.
Okay. Being a certificate holder is, in the first place, this document in and of itself is not worth the paper it's written on. The most important thing is the policy itself and what you've agreed to. We don't have an agreement with them. So the only way that the district could be protected from somebody who is injured on our premises under this insurance policy, unless there's something here that I don't know about, but under that insurance policy, is if we were an additional named insured. And they can do that by an endorsement. And that's what we asked for originally. Oh, complete named insured. Okay. All named.
While he's reading that, one of the things that every contract that goes before Governor and Council, because I have experience with this, has to have, unless it's waived, one of those with the agency's name in that lower left-hand box. And that's why I was looking for us.
So if they would,
Do you wanna see
that
this, Dave?
probably accomplishes it, but they probably also have a schedule, and if they would just provide us with a copy of just the schedule.
Copy of the schedule.
Yep, because there will be,
And
probably
this,
a page or maybe even two. of
Now-
people who fall into that.
and can we further modify a motion if one is so made, that it would be incumbent upon them to keep this in effect past January 1st, 2014?
Excuse me, they always give me.
An updated one after. Well, it needs to be part, right, and I'm sure that they have it, but it's not this one.
Typically, there probably is language on there somewhere if you look around that says they have to give 30-day notice to everybody.
Okay.
If the insurer, if there's a cancellation, and the insurer fails to give notice regardless of the reason for the cancellation.
Yep.
And then they usually still find coverage under the policy, but
Okay.
that's probably less than concern.
Because they've never not done it, I just want it to be thorough.
Yep.
So Philip, you're asking for a copy of the schedule?
Yeah. Or if
The-
you have a typical employee, one or the other.
Do I have a motion? What is the motion, please?
It is to permit them to have non-exclusive access to our lands. Non-exclusive access to our lands.
And the requirements are?
Simply that we have either a schedule that will include it on or the endorsement that provides the coverage. And it should be a page or maybe two. It shouldn't be very much.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be hard to get into.
Do I have a second to that motion? Jen? Further discussion?
Just one?
Read the motion, because I couldn't hear the thing down here except for this.
Absolutely. To do, Phil, please to repeat the motion, please.
The motion to allow, or then make access to the trail for this season, or for this reading of the period, as we've done it in the past from period to period. And the only thing that, and this isn't, I don't know, this needs to be part of the motion, but we'd like something either in the way of a schedule or endorsement that demonstrates what the certificate provides.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very unanimous, thank you. Special meeting date discussion.
Board members should have received a copy of correspondence from Sarah Murdo in your packets.
I don't believe I did.
No.
Mine's right here. Do you have copies? Okay, my apologies. I need to make copies of this. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Shall we move on to something else later?
You could discuss the call for resolution sessions, and here, the copies are right here for those.
All right. Do we have the password for these copies?
I think Sam can help us. Thank you, Sam.
All right. Very much so.
One for each. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
There's 7 of us. All right, so we have the call for the New Hampshire School Board Association resolution. The deadline for that is October 25th, so if you did want to put forward any resolutions, we want to discuss it at our next meeting. Does anybody have any questions on that piece of it? Why don't we do this, since you're just getting the packets, you'll have until next meeting to think about it. If you have any resolutions that you wish to put forward, then just let us know by the next meeting, and we can address it then. Does that sound fair? Perfect. All right, Brian, copies are coming up. Did you want to start the special meeting discussion?
Sure, I can just begin to, specifically this is regarding our ability to move forward with, between Goffstown and New Boston in the creation of a new area. And the letter that Sam is kind enough to copy, and again, my apologies that I didn't have that for you. Essentially what Sarah Murdo is recommending, the action that both the Goffstown Board and the New Boston Board take, is to create a special meeting to form the new area. Now, to provide a little context, thank you, Sam. Last year, your warrant article had language to form a new area between Goffstown, New Boston, and Dunbarton. When Dunbarton, through their school district meeting, voted to join with SAU 67 and form a new area with Bow, it's the legal opinion of Sarah that both Goffstown and New Boston should have a separate process to form the new area committee. So in other words, the warrant article last year didn't have a clause that if Dunbarton were to vote to leave SAU 19, that Goffstown and New Boston were free to continue. That specific language on the warrant was not included. So what you have here is a letter that I have received from Sarah, and she is recommending under the RSA 195A:3 that we proceed with holding a special meeting to consider creating a new area planning committee. In here, she's also included the recommended notice, the posting, and the timeline.
Does anybody have any questions about the timelines?
Tuesday, 10:15, special meeting Wednesday, 10:30, ballot meeting on 12/4. Just so that we get this over, the special meeting deliberative would be for a single topic. We would meet as a group, I would presume, in Heber Auditorium or the gymnasium. Do what we need to do, which would be to, I don't know, there's not a whole lot to do except discuss the area. And then on December 4th, looking at my calendar, which is a Wednesday, different than a Tuesday, we would actually have a room set up. Are you presuming the gym here and the gym at Bartlett for ballot?
Ray?
For District 1 and District 5?
5, yeah.
And who would be our school district clerk now be organizing all of this in lieu of not having a town special meeting, which would be new to her?
I think this is new to a lot of us.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, so specifically, all of those details, Dan, we'll have to work with
Okay.
with everyone to make sure that we have everything identified and all
Right.
of the requirements are
Right.
taken care of.
Yeah.
Right. And we would have to be in attendance in lieu of the selectmen. There should be at least one of us at the polling location for every hour of the polling there, and then the school district moderator would then be in charge of counting the ballots. And we would then make a decision on whether or not we actually want to pay to have the AccuVote machines count the ballots, or we just count them by hand. I would suggest we just do it by hand. It's between $600 and $850 to program those things. Just so that we understand the whole concept of where it's going on.
But it's something that needs to be done.
Yes, agreed. So,
One thing about this timeline is the Wednesday, October 30th, the special meeting deliberative.
Yes.
Theoretically, we do have a conflict in and of ourselves that those are board workshop meetings to address the budget.
oh,
So my thought is we likely cannot do both, depending on what the turnout is at the deliberative.
let me see. So,
So it may be that we wish to move that to a Thursday.
what time is the board workshop meeting at 7?
I would say that our standard practice is 7 o'clock.
And would we place our meeting at 7 or at any other time?
I think that would be up to us, the way we wish to schedule it.
That's kind of like what I'm saying, and so we may not have to change it
It could be 6 to 7 for the deliberative session.
at the most.
Session after-
I'm saying, I mean, the deliberative session, a normal deliberative session might be about a few hours, but we have a lot of things to do. That we do awards, we do recognitions, we have enough ballot items. The only thing we have to do here is review the one item that's going to appear, article that's going to appear on the ballot, and that's the creation of an area and committee. I mean, and it's and I'm not sure if the general populace votes for them, or that's going to be interesting. We'll figure that out if they vote for people for that, or at that meeting. Of course, they can't do it at that meeting because they have to vote for it by ballot on 12/4.
I think we're just going to discuss the warrant. Is
Right.
all it's going to be. It's not going to be about people. It's going to be
Right.
about
I haven't read that part of. Right.
The other year we do a warrant article, we do an area agreement, there's never been any.
Right, because it's been an amendment. This is a brand-new area, so we have to go back 40 years to see what we did.
So, I mean, do we feel comfortable then?
Yes.
This is likely a brief meeting where we could schedule it on October 30th from 6:30 to 7, or starting at 6:30 with the idea that we would start our budget work session immediately following.
Yeah.
We're in a good place with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess the one question I have is that we are doing this in isolation. Is it safe to assume that our neighbors are doing the same thing almost as we speak, or in close
those commitment to?
Wednesday evening, the New Boston Board will be meeting and reviewing the same information. As the board recalls, I had met with Sarah Murdo and Doug Hatfield, who is New Boston's attorney, and this is what we came up with and the two attorneys both agreed to. So they're going to use the exact same process, and I believe they're going to pick the same days so that we stay consistent with Sarah's proposed calendar and don't, because the posting requirements are a little different, the notification requirements are a little different, and we want to follow what Sarah has put together in both communities.
Thanks.
Yes, Hank?
Make sure the special meeting follows basically the same rules as the regular meeting. You should coordinate with the town clerk, because you may have to get voting booths, you may have to get counters, you may have to get checking the registered voter list.
Yep, you do,
It's not a
for the
cheap
second
thing to
session
do.
and the first section.
No?
You're into maybe 5 or 10.
It would be something that you would just adjourn to the regular meeting, review the voting process, and then just trust that the person that would know that information of all of the specifics of the state as far as voting goes would be Kathy Ball. And we would really have to get information from her specifics.
We will do that.
All right, do I need a motion regarding this date?
And I will,
Motion from Philip,
I will second.
seconded by Dan. What was the motion?
To move forward, consistent with the calendar presented. And to schedule an area school planning board public hearing in accordance with RSA 195(8)(3).
Agreed.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We're unanimous. Thank you.
Now, do you need anything to post this, or can you just take it from what we just said to post this thing? Page 4.
My understanding is we have the information based on this code to post,
Love it.
to post this. Post it.
Yeah.
Okay. Nominations. We have some nominations this evening for co-curriculars.
We do have some co-curriculars. We have,
So you want to go around? Go around? No?
Do we have one to go around?
yeah, no, I apologize. Our HR person, we actually, no, I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'll read
No,
them
that's
to you.
good. Read them off, please.
Yep.
That's perfect.
Co-curricular sports, new freshman boys basketball at the high school here. We have Matthew Reel, R-I-E-H-L. I do have information about all these folks. We have a confirmation of an extension of unpaid leave of absence for Lee Brazel as a reading teacher at Maple.
If you still different, maybe we should do them one at a time.
Okay,
Nominate the co-curricular.
okay.
Okay.
Matthew Reel.
All right, good nomination, a motion from Philip to nominate, second by Ginny. All in favor?
Aye.
We're unanimous, thank you.
I'm sorry, my second one, confirmation of an extension of unpaid leave of absence, which is through January 1st, 2014 for Lee Brazel at Maple Ave as a reading teacher.
Do you have a motion? By Philip, do I have a second? What is that?
Well, we're confirming an extension. So you've been asked for an extension, would you recommend it?
Yes.
And this is an unpaid leave.
This is an unpaid leave.
So I have a motion by Philip, do I have a second? By Retta, do I have further discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
We're unanimous, thank you.
We have several student observers from St. Anselm College. We have Rochelle Davis, who's going to be observing Sarah Mullen at Bartlett. Devin Gallant, who's going to be with Chris Groves in grade 2 at Bartlett. Catherine Morse at Bartlett with Bridget McNamee in grade 1. Erica Pekalinis, sorry, I'm butchering a few of these names here. Bartlett, she's with Kristen Weber in grade 4. Boy, the names aren't getting easier. Monica Pustari at Bartlett with Becky Audley, grade 2. And Shauna Whittemore at Bartlett with Angela Colvin in grade 1. And we have one person from Plymouth State, Anthony Windells, at Bartlett with Susie Meyer, who's our ESOL teacher. So these are just students doing minor observations. This is not an internship or anything of that nature. It's essentially field study hours where, as part of their education coursework, they're coming in, they're doing observations of the teachers and writing up reflections and the like.
Do I have any motions? Jenny? Second? Second by John. Further discussion?
I didn't actually hear it. Was that just a...
To allow the students to observe in our classroom.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're unanimous. Thank you very much for that.
Sorry, I didn't have the printout to go around though.
Do you have any other business that may be raised on before the meeting? Seeing none, we have a non-public session this evening, so I would entertain a motion to go into non-public pursuant to RSA 91A:3, subsection 2 for negotiations.
I will make the motion to go into non-public under RSA 91-A:3, Roman 2, parenthetical A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, the disciplining of such employee, yada, yada, yada.
All in favor as we need a roll?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So good, you didn't